We will not lose, let it sink in. Never back down, we don't play around. Coming for the dub and the crown. Battle for the win, we the kingpin. We will not lose, let it sink in. Never back down, we don't play around. Coming for the dub and the crown. We will not lose, let it sink in.
Welcome into this week's episode of Game Changers. I'm your host, Lauren Burgess.
And I'm your host, Shelby Schauble. Nothing says spring like a little track and field, and that's exactly what we have for this week.
And Shelby, before we get into this week's episode, track and field is your event. You know, what are you most looking forward to in this episode?
I think just like finally getting to talk about something that I'm very familiar with, probably a little too familiar with. I love track. For reference, I did track since I was probably like 9 years old, 8 years old, all the way through college. So I'm very well versed in this topic, and I'm really excited.
Gonna take you back a little bit to your college days, which wasn't too long ago. And again, like, you're very well-rounded on the topic, so I think this will be an exciting episode for both of us. But back on April 8th, Carl Junction hosted a Southwest area track meet, and man, was this one a big event.
We're talking more than 300 athletes from nearly 20 schools.
So let's hop into our first event, Shelby. I know it's a little self-explanatory, some of these events, but for those that don't know, we're gonna give some kind of explainers, some tips about it.
Yeah.
So the 100-meter dash, as you can see, kind of just give us a little bit tidbits about it.
So the 100-meter dash is the shortest sprint event for outdoor track. Usually, there are some 60-meter dashes, but that's usually indoor track, but it's a sprint event, and it's that straight leg portion that you see on the track. There's portions of that on both sides of the track. And yeah, you just kind of go as fast as you can down the straightaway, and your goal is to just get the fastest time.
And like you were just saying, although the 100-meter dash is one of the shorter distances in the running events, it still takes a lot of endurance. And watching the video, something that I noticed was all these athletes ran the whole entire time and they didn't give up. You know, Shelby, why is it so important to not give up in sports?
I mean, in general, I think like the good thing about sports is it translates a lot to different things in life. It's important in life not to give up and to push yourself and to kind of have that endurance in life, because, you know, in track, especially the 100-meter, even though it's quick, it does, you know, fatigue you because you're going so fast and having to kind of give your all. And that's in life too. You're gonna have moments where you're giving your all and you kind of fatigue a little bit, and you kind of gotta keep going and push through. So I think it's definitely a good way to kind of teach yourself those life lessons.
Yep, that will do it for the 100-meter dash. And I think it's only right that we move on to the 200-meter dash next. And it looks like these athletes just ran so much. So Shelby, just kind of, again, give us a little bit of rundown of what the 200-meter dash is.
So the 200-meter is double the 100, except it's stacked a little differently. So it's the straight that you would have in a 100-meter dash, and then you add the curve of the track. So like what we kind of talked about earlier, it's like the track cut in half. And you run that curve, you start running the curve, and then you go into the straight. So they're both measured at equally 100 in distance when it comes to the meters, but it's just differently structured because the first half is the curve, and then the second half is that straight that you're seeing them run along right there. And it's definitely a lot easier to get fatigued with the 200 because you have to run it very strategically, because if you get out too fast in the first 100, well, you still have another 100 to go, whereas when you're just doing the 100-meter dash, all you got to worry about is just that straight, so you can give a lot more of your energy and immediate speed.
And sometimes in junior high, I ran the 200 meters a couple times. That curve is no joke.
No.
It does not seem like 100 meters, and once you just finish that curve, you're only halfway done. And I was so tired. I don't know how I made it through the 200-meter dash. But looking at that video, one thing I do kind of want to point out is at the end of the race, athletes were given medals for crossing the finish line. You know, Shelby, I know you ran track, obviously. What were the emotions, the feelings going through your head when you just, you know, crossed that finish line?
I mean, I think it just is like, yes, I finally got it done, especially because it can be very nerve-wracking. Sports, you know, can be very high pressure at times. And I think once you kind of get it done, you're like, okay, my stress is over. Now I can have fun, enjoy my win, and kind of just like on to the next race.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm done. But sometimes, you know, if I ever placed in junior high, which was not very often, I was like, oh, you know, I got a medal around my neck. You know, the fans are cheering, my family support is there, and so just love that. But we're going to hear from an athlete real quick, Sayer Sunday.
It's obviously a great experience, like nothing much like it. Really shows the Southwest Missouri community, you know.
Now on to the next track event, the 400-meter walk. Shelby, you know the drill. What's this event all about?
Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm not as familiar with the walk, but a 400 is just one lap around the track, so I'm assuming it's just walking one lap, 400 meters. It's basically the 100, yes, times 4, and it's one of the more, I'd say, you know, speed endurance events, especially the 400 and the 800. Now the walk is a little different because you're walking, so it's different, but I mean, it's pretty much that, just full lap around the track, and if you're walking it, you're walking, and if you're running, you're definitely having to pace yourself a little bit differently, kind of start yourself out quick and then settle in and then just kill it like that last 150 for sure.
And check out this athlete that just crossed the line. She started off fast and ran the whole entire 400-meter dash.
Her.
I mean, I ran the 400 meters a couple times. I feel like in junior high, you just ran everything.
Yes.
So, but for people that haven't, you know, how difficult is, you know, staying strong in the 400-meter dash? Because I think it's a good in between of like the sprinting ones, like 100 meter, 200, but also the more like cross country like. So.
Yeah, like the distance events. Well, it's actually funny because people that like when you've kind of done track for a long time, you kind of realize 400 is still really a sprint. And you have to run it differently because if you get out too quickly, like you're running at 100, then you're going to die out and completely fizzle out, and it will be tough. But it is one of those events, especially when you watch like the Olympians run it. I mean, they're just running it full speed basically the whole time. But it definitely is one of those events that you have to kind of like strategically, you know, operate and kind of like plan out in your mind, and it definitely takes, you know, some experience to get it down properly. But I mean, that was great to watch. They did a great job for sure.
So pacing yourself is
Yeah.
key in the 400-meter dash. Well, we love to see it. Let's take a little break from our running events, and let's move over to some of our field events, starting off with standing long jump. I mean, as you can see, athletes would start on the side of the sand pit and jump to see how far they could go across the pit, and then volunteers would measure the length of the jump. And this seems a little similar to something that's more of a traditional track and field event. You mind talking just a little bit about long jump?
Well, long jump, usually, traditional long jump, you're running to a mark and then kind of you hit the board and then you jump into the pit. This is a little different because it's standing long jump, but it kind of has that similar function where you're jumping into the pit and trying to get as far as you can. So that's what they're doing right there, and they seem like they're doing a great job. Standing long jump is definitely tough. When you're doing long jump on the actual pit and you're actually running on the long jump track, what they're doing is a good drill to kind of just practice your power and pushing your momentum and your standing momentum, and it helps you work on your landing. But definitely a little different.
I was going to say, I think standing long jump might even be a little more difficult than running long jump, just because you don't have that momentum and that speed carrying you into the jump. You really just have to like wind your arms up and jump. And I believe they measured it on length, and you know, the longest length is, you know, who gets the first place. But again, all of the athletes medaled. But speaking of long jump, we will get to that later in the episode. Don't want to spoil too much, but before that, let's turn it over to Lander Burt, hear about what events he competed at the Southwest Area Track Meet.
I did the 100 mile run, and I also did the row, and now I need to do the long jump.
And he said it best there. It is time to move on to running long jump. And taking a look at the video, athletes are running as hard as they can leading up to the jump. Shelby, how important is it to hit your maximum speed before jumping into long jump?
Well, long jump is interesting because if you step over the board, usually it's counted as like a foul, depending on if you step behind the board, it's fine, but if you step in front of the board, it's a scratch. So with running long jump, it's interesting because you have to push and gradually increase your speed, but also give yourself kind of enough power to push off the board for long jump and then get your farthest or furthest in the pit. So it's like a mixture of speed and also kind of like power, because you have to push all that speed forward and let it take you out into the pit.
Very well said. I know we've talked a lot about long jump, so I think it's just time to move on to the next field event, which is softball throw. And again, looking at this video, this seems very similar to a well-known track and field event, just modified a little bit. So Shelby, what does this event kind of look like?
Yeah, it looks like shot put. I mean, definitely different than the shot put for sure, but I think it's a good way to kind of like replicate it, because shot put is very technical and you can hurt yourself if you're not, you know, doing it properly and all that stuff. But it looks very cool. I mean, you're definitely throwing it.
They're staying behind the line.
Yeah.
I feel like the only difference is the ball, so the softball, which is a little bit lighter, so it might be able to give athletes a little bit of an easier time. But I feel like these softballs are going super long, and you know, the volunteers just there to help measure. And again, I think how it works is the longest length, you know, takes the place, but again, every athlete medals. So let's hear from another athlete.
What have you competed in so far?
Racing ball throwing.
So I see you got that gold medal. Nice. What did you get it from?
Race.
And we went from softball throw, so it's only right that we go on to shot put. Shelby gave some great information about the field event shot put just a little bit ago. And what I'm seeing from this video is the athletes really just taking their time to get a good grip on the ball, make sure it's on their shoulder right, putting all their strength into launching the ball. Shelby, why is patience so important when it comes to track and field?
I mean, especially in the beginning when you're first learning all the events, like anything in life, patience is important, because you gotta try and see what works, see what doesn't. Sometimes you're gonna fail, but you just have to be tenacious and keep pushing and keep working on it, and eventually you'll find something you like and something that sticks. And that's a good thing about track. There's so many different things, whether it's field events or track, and then on the track, sprints or distance. There's so much to do that usually most people find something that they like and that resonates with them. So that's, you know, great. And just, you know, you have to be patient sometimes to figure that out. Sometimes you get really attached to one thing, thinking you're good at it and you want to keep trying it, and you're like, but it's not necessarily working. So then you got to push yourself to try something else. It's a process like anything else in life.
I think it also helps with your mindset, keeping calm, collected. Sometimes when you're doing these races or events, you can kind of get in your head.
Yes.
So just being patient kind of allows you to make sure you stay on top of it and do what you do best. But we've covered so many different track and field events so far. So let's wrap up the field event side of things with some javelin. So this, again, is a little bit of a modified version of javelin, just like with the softball throw being very similar to shot put. This is mini javelin. I think javelin sticks are 2.2 to 2.6 meters long. This is shortened a little bit for the athletes, but I'm not very versed in the javelin event. So Shelby, I'm gonna toss this over to you.
Yes.
What do you know about javelin?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very versed in the javelin as well, but from what I know and what I've seen, first of all, javelin's only an outdoor sport, so it's only the spring, and a little bit of summer as well, but it's cool. I mean, I'd say that's pretty close to what javelin is. It's just obviously a different, you know, device that they use, but your goal is to get it as far as you can, but you have to, usually they kind of do a little bit of a run before, but it's like a balance as well. You think just people are throwing it, but there's a technique and there's a certain aspect of like power and even a little bit of like technique when it comes to your run up to your approach. So it's all, each sport, and that's another thing with track, each sport has its own kind of method and thing that makes it special and unique.
And with javelin, I mean, like you were saying, it kind of sounds like there's multiple events you can kind of put in the javelin. Like, for example, the long jump, you have to run down the track.
Yeah.
And then with the throw, it's kind of like the softball throw or the shot put. So it's kind of like you can take some techniques from the other events and put them together. You kind of have javelin. Again, it's very different. It's a stick that you're throwing. And again, there is a technique in like how you have to move your body. But it seems like if you do maybe shot put and long jump, you can kind of put two together and make javelin out of it.
No, definitely. Well, now it's time to hear from one more athlete, Tara Dodson.
I hope my mom and dad are watching this right now, because they wouldn't be able to come.
And moving over, this track event that you now see is the 800 and 1500 meter walk or run. And this athlete right here is crushing it, keeping a really good running pace and really shows no signs of slowing down. And while she continues to keep running, Shelby, if you don't mind giving us some bits and pieces about the 800 and 1500 track events.
Yeah, well, the 800 is just a 400 times 2, so it's 2 laps around the track. And then the 1500, it's interesting because it's 3 laps around the track and then an extra 200 meters. So it's 3 laps and a half. Now, depending on where you go, some people do the 1500 or they have the 1600, so it's kind of dependent on just where you go in this time of year. But it is considered in some areas the 800 and 1500 traditionally is a more distance event, but still, I mean, when you see some of these times that some of these 800-meter runners are running when it comes to the pros and the Olympians, 800 is
still
basically a
fast.
sprint.
Yes.
In sprint, it's speed endurance, but it's still very much that. And then distance is more so the 15 and kind of above that. But like you said, she's killing it on the track for sure.
Couldn't have said it any better. And last but not least, I've been looking forward to this event the whole entire episode because, again, when I was in junior high, my track glory days, this was one of my favorite events, and it gave me so much adrenaline. I won't keep you folks waiting anymore. I'm talking about relay races. This is kind of one of the track events where teamwork is on full display, Shelby. First, I have to ask, what do you really like about relay races?
I mean, it's kind of in the name, relay. Like, it's a team-based event. It's one of the only team events, really, if not the only team events that is a part of track and field. So there's the 4x1, which is everyone, there's 4 people and everyone runs 100 meters, and there's the 4x4 and everyone runs 400 meters. But it's fun because you rely on your team. You have to pass a baton. Everyone has to collect the baton and run around, and everyone has to carry their weight as well. But it definitely takes off, I think, that individual pressure just a little bit that comes with having to do events by yourself. It's like fun to be with your team. You all get to kind of be together when you're getting ready to race and start, and then you all get kind of separated for a little bit when it's time to go to your spot. But it feels like you're running for more than just yourself. So it gives you a bit more, I'd say, of like purpose.
Very well said, and I feel like teamwork really makes the dream work in these relay races. So why is teamwork, just in any sports or specifically track and field, why is it so important?
Yeah, I feel like we touch on this. I mean, pretty much every episode, teamwork it makes the dream work. It literally does. You need a team to, if not compete with you, to push you and help support you. And that, I think, is something that's so great about all the sports we have talked about so far, is there's always that aspect of teamwork and team quality time and all of that, just kind of pushing each other. And that's just also something that helps in life. Working with other people, being on a team teaches you how to support others and how to pull your weight when other people are relying on you, you know?
Well, that will do it for this week's episode of Game Changers. A lot of track and field, but that'll do it.
Yep, we'll see you guys next time.
Watch me